Have you ever reacted to something and later wondered why your reaction felt so strong? Maybe the situation itself was small, a comment someone made, a misunderstanding, a moment of criticism. But something inside you reacted much more intensely than you expected. Your emotions rose quickly, your thoughts became defensive, or maybe you shut down completely. And afterward, you thought to yourself, why did that affect me so much? Many people experience moments like this, and often they assume something is wrong with them. They think they are too sensitive, too emotional, too reactive, but very often the real explanation is something much deeper. Not weakness, not immaturity, but patterns that the mind learned long ago. Patterns that helped you survive difficult emotional experiences. Psychologists often refer to these patterns as trauma responses. But trauma does not always mean a single dramatic event. Sometimes trauma is quieter. It can develop slowly through repeated emotional experiences. Moments where you felt unsafe. Moments where you felt unseen. Moments where your emotions were dismissed or misunderstood. Over time, the mind learns how to protect itself, and those protection patterns can remain active long after the original situation has passed. Think about how the nervous system works. Your brain is constantly scanning the environment for signals of safety or danger. This happens automatically. You do not consciously choose it. Your nervous system simply reacts to what it perceives. If the brain detects something that reminds it of a past emotional threat, it may activate protective responses, even if the current situation is not truly dangerous. This is why certain situations can trigger strong reactions that seem confusing. A tone of voice, a look of disappointment, a moment of rejection. These signals can activate emotional memories stored deep within the nervous system, and the brain reacts quickly, sometimes through anger, sometimes through withdrawal, sometimes through people-pleasing, sometimes through silence. These responses are not random. They were learned. At some point in life, they helped you navigate a difficult emotional environment. For example, if expressing your feelings once led to criticism or rejection, your mind may have learned that staying quiet is safer. If mistakes once led to strong disapproval, your brain may have learned to become extremely self-critical in order to avoid future pain. If emotional conflict once felt overwhelming, your nervous system may have learned to withdraw completely when tension appears. These patterns can continue into adulthood without us realizing it. And because they operate automatically, many people interpret them as personality traits. They say things like, "I've always been this way. I just overreact sometimes. I'm bad at handling conflict." But often these reactions are not simply personality. They are learned survival responses. And understanding this changes something important, because once we begin to see our reactions with compassion instead of judgment, clarity begins to grow. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" we begin asking a different question. What might my mind be trying to protect me from? That question opens the door to a deeper understanding of ourselves. Understanding trauma responses is not about blaming the past. It is about recognizing how the past quietly shapes the present. Many adults carry emotional patterns that were formed years earlier, patterns that once helped them adapt to difficult situations. But those same patterns can later create challenges in relationships, work, and emotional well-being. For example, someone who learned to stay silent to avoid conflict may struggle to express their needs as an adult. Someone who learned to constantly prove their worth may become exhausted trying to meet impossible standards. Someone who learned that mistakes bring rejection may live with constant anxiety about failing. These patterns often operate beneath awareness, but once we begin to recognize them, something important becomes possible: choice. When a reaction happens automatically, it feels uncontrollable. But when we understand where that reaction comes from, the mind gains space to respond differently. This is where emotional awareness becomes powerful. Instead of reacting immediately, we begin to pause. We begin to notice what is happening inside us. What emotion is rising? What fear might be underneath it? What past experience might be shaping this reaction? This kind of reflection brings emotional clarity. And emotional clarity changes the way we relate to ourselves. Instead of seeing our reactions as flaws, we begin to see them as signals. Signals from the nervous system that something inside us once needed protection. There is another important reason many trauma responses remain active for so long. The nervous system remembers emotional environments even when the conscious mind moves forward. You may understand logically that certain situations are no longer dangerous, but the nervous system does not rely only on logic, it relies on experience. If the body has learned that certain emotional signals once led to pain, rejection, or instability, it may continue reacting quickly even years later. This is why some reactions can feel almost automatic. Your mind may understand the situation, but your body reacts first. The heart rate changes, the muscles tighten, your thoughts move faster. This is not failure, it is simply the nervous system doing what it was trained to do. But the nervous system can also learn new patterns, and that learning begins with awareness. When you notice a strong emotional reaction, instead of immediately judging it, try observing it with curiosity. Ask yourself, what emotion is rising right now? Is this reaction connected only to this moment? Or does it remind me of something older? Sometimes the reaction we feel in the present is connected to experiences that happened long ago. Moments where we felt misunderstood. Moments where we felt powerless. Moments where we felt alone in our emotions, recognizing that connection does not trap us in the past. It actually gives us the ability to move forward more wisely. Because when awareness grows, the nervous system slowly begins to relax. It realizes that the present moment is different and that new responses are possible. Faith strengthens this process in a powerful way, because faith reminds us that our identity is not defined by our past experiences. We are not permanently shaped by the environments we once survived. Growth is always possible. Healing is always possible. And sometimes the first step toward healing is simply understanding ourselves with honesty instead of judgment. Faith brings another important perspective to this process. Many people believe faith means ignoring emotional struggles, but true faith does not require pretending that pain never happened. Faith invites honesty. It allows us to bring our inner life into the light. Scripture often shows people expressing fear, grief, confusion, and doubt, not hiding it, not denying it, but bringing it into relationship with God. Healing often begins in that kind of honesty, because when we stop hiding our emotional wounds, we begin creating space for growth. And slowly, the nervous system can learn something new, that the present is not the same as the past, that safety can exist where fear once lived, that reactions formed in old environments do not have to control the future. This does not happen overnight, but awareness begins the process. Compassion deepens it, and faith provides the foundation for lasting change. So if you sometimes find yourself reacting strongly, with anger, with withdrawal, with fear, or with silence, pause before judging yourself. Your mind may be responding to something it learned long ago, and understanding that is not weakness, it is wisdom. Because the moment we begin to understand our reactions, we also begin to regain the freedom to choose a different response. And that is where real emotional growth begins. If this reflection spoke to something inside you, remember this: you are not alone in what you carry. Many people walk through life quietly holding more than others can see. Pressure, responsibility, expectations. But faith was never meant to make life heavier. Faith was meant to remind you that you do not have to carry everything alone. So take a slow breath, allow your mind to rest for a moment, and remember that peace does not begin when life becomes perfect. Peace begins when the heart learns to trust. If this message helped you today, subscribe to this channel for more reflections on emotional clarity through faith. And if you feel comfortable, share in the comments what this season of your life has been teaching you. Sometimes the most powerful step toward healing is simply knowing you are not walking alone.